Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 4, the Hamsakriya Prayers, Text 26. Would you like the book, Prabhu? I can read off my phone. I can read off my phone if you want to have the book. Mhm. 6. Oh, yeah. Yadu Parama Manaso Namarupa Rupasya Drishta Smriti Sampramoshat Ya Ite Kevalaya Svasamsaya Hamsaya Tasmai Shichi Sadmane Namaha Yadu Parama Manaso Namarupa Rupasya Drishta Smriti Sampramoshat Ya Ite Kevalaya Svasamsaya Hamsaya Tasmai Shichi Sadmane Namaha Yadu Parama Manaso Namarupa Rupasya Drishta Smriti Sampramoshat Ya Ite Kevalaya Svasamsaya Hamsaya Tasmai Shichi Sadmane Namaha Would you like to repeat? Would you like to give it a try?
Okay. Yadu Paramo Manasunamarupa
Yadu Parama Manasanamarupa
Rupasya Dista Smiti Sampramoshat
Rupasya Jishta Smriti Sampramoshat
Yayate Keval Samstaya
Ya Ite Kevalaya Svasamstaya
Amshaya Tashmi Suchi Satmani Namaha
Hamsaya Tasmai Shichi Sadmane Namaha. Anybody online like to read the verse?
Yado Paramo Manasonama Rupa
Parama Manasodamarupa
Rupasya Drishta Smriti Sampramoshat
Rupasya Drishta Smriti Sampramoshat
Yayate Kevalaya Swa Samstaya
Yayate Kevalaya Svasamstaya
Hamsaya Tasmai Shuchi Satmane Namaha
Hamsaya Tasmai Shichi Sadmane Namaha. Anyone else?
Paramo Manasonamarupa
Yado Parama Manasonamarupa
Rupasya Krishna Smriti Sampramoshat
Rupasya Drishta Smriti Sampramoshat
Ya Ita Kevaya Samstaya
Ya Ite Kevalaya Svasamstaya
Hansaya Tasmai Shri Satmani
Hamsaya Tasmai Shichi Sadmane Namaha. Thank you, Prabhus. Yada, when in trance.
Trance
Rupa Parama, complete cessation.
Complete cessation
Manasa,
Manasa
of the mind.
of the mind
Nama Rupa, material names and forms.
material names and forms,
Rupasya,
Rupasya,
of that by which they appear.
of which they appear,
Drishta,
Vista,
of material vision.
of material vision,
Smriti,
Smriti,
and of remembrance.
of remembrance,
Pramoshat,
Sampramosha,
due to the destruction.
due to the destruction,
Yah,
Yah,
who, the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
Iyate
Iyate
is perceived.
is perceived,
Kevalaya,
Kevalaya,
with spiritual.
spiritual,
Svasamstaya,
Samstaya,
his own original form.
his own original form,
Hamsaya,
Hamsaya,
unto the Supreme Pure.
to the Supreme Pure,
Tasmai,
Tasmay,
unto him.
unto him,
Shuchi Sadmane,
which is Sadmani,
who is realized only in the pure state of spiritual existence.
who is realized only in the pure state of spiritual existence.
Nama,
Nama,
I offer my respectful obeisances.
respectful obeisance.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki.
Yeah.
When one's consciousness is completely purified of the contamination of material existence, gross and subtle, without being agitated as in the working and dreaming states, and when the mind is not dissolved as in sushupti, deep sleep, one comes to the platform of trance. Then one's material vision and the memories of the mind, which manifest names and forms, are vanquished. Only in such a trance is the Supreme Personality of Godhead revealed. Thus let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is seen in that uncontaminated transcendental state. Purport: there are two stages of God realization. One is called sugyayam, or very easily understood, generally by mental speculation, and the other is called durgyam, understood only with difficulty. Paramatma realization and Brahman realization are considered sugyayam, but realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is durgyam. As described here, one attains ultimate realization of the Personality of Godhead when one gives up the activities of the mind, thinking, feeling, and willing, or in other words, when mental speculation stops. This transcendental realization is above sushupti, deep sleep. In our gross conditional stage, we perceive things through material experience and remembrance, and in the subtle stage, we perceive the world in dreams. The process of vision also involves remembrance and also exists in a subtle form. Above gross experience and dreams is sushupti, deep sleep, and when one comes to the completely spiritual platform, transcending deep sleep, he attains trance, Vishuddhasattva, or Vasudevasatva, in which the personality of Godhead is revealed. Atashi Krishna Namadi Nabhavedgrayam Indraya. As long as one is situated in duality, on the central platform, gross or subtle, realization of the original personality of Godhead is impossible. Sevanmukhi jivado svayam eva sparatita. But when one engages his senses in the service of the Lord, specifically when one engages the tongue in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra and tasting only Krishna prasada with a spirit of service, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is revealed. This is indicated in this verse by the word Shuchi Sadmane. Shuchi means purified. By the spirit of rendering service with one's senses, one's entire existence becomes Shuchi Sadma, the platform of uncontaminated purity. Daksha therefore offers his respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is revealed on the platform of Shuchi Sadma. In this regard, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur quotes the following prayer by Lord Brahma from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Tatapi Puman Mahima Gunasyate Vibhodham Arhatya Malantar Atmavihi. One whose heart has become completely purified, my Lord, can understand the transcendental qualities of your Lordship and can understand the greatness of your activities. Om Gana Tiranandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. So thank you devotees for attending online and in person. Yeah, nice long purport, and I highlighted some bits just on my my phone, but really the essence of what I was getting from the word for word, the translation, and the purport, or at least what stuck out to me, was just that Krishna can only be understood with, eyes anointed with the salve of love. So essentially, we have to come to the platform of what is in the translation of Shuchi Sadma, which Prabhupada says in the word for word, or translates it as, who is realized only in the pure state of spiritual existence. So we have to be Shuchi, purified, clean. And in the translation, he says, then one's material vision and the memories of the mind, which manifest names and forms, are vanquished. Only in such a trance is the Supreme Personality of Godhead revealed. So only when one's material vision and the memories of the mind are vanquished, and then one is situated in a state of trance. So the material mind isn't there, but we know it's not just null and void. The spiritual mind and the spiritual senses are working; they're uncovered. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead is only seen in that uncontaminated transcendental state. And this right away made me think of the Brahma Samhita. Oh yeah, sorry about that down. It's Brahma Samhita 538. I'm sure most people know it, but it's hard for me to remember verses off the top of my head in public. Writing the past acharyas. Yeah, so it's Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Hridaya Shivilokayanti Yam Shama Sundara Machintya Gunasvarupam Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Shama Sundara, Krishna himself, with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts with the eye of devotion, tinged with the salve of love. So it's really an incredible purport. It's not too long, so I'd like to read it. So this is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami. That's translated the Brahma Samhita and wrote these purports. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, the Shamasundara form of Krishna is his inconceivable, simultaneous, personal and impersonal, self-contradictory form. True devotees see that form in their purified hearts under the influence of devotional trance. The form Shama is not the blue color visible in the mundane world, but is the transcendental variegated color affording eternal bliss, and is not visible to the mortal eye. On a consideration of the trance of Vyasadeva, as in the shloka Bhakti Yogena Manasi, etc., it will be clear that the form of Sri Krishna is the full personality of Godhead and can only be visible in the heart of a true devotee, which is the only true seat in the state of trance under the influence of devotion. So there's so many parallels actually between today's purport and this verse from this purport to the verse from the Brahma Samhita. Even the same language is used, like trance and purified, and talking about the material vision versus the spiritual vision. It was really stunning to me that I thought of this verse and I'm like, wow, there's such a correlation between the two. So he continues, when Krishna manifested himself in Vraj, both the devotees and non-devotees saw him with this very eye, the eye under the influence of devotion. But only the devotees cherished him, eternally present in Vraja, as the priceless jewel of their heart. Nowadays also the devotees see him in Vraja in their hearts, saturated with devotion, although they do not see him with their eyes. The eye of devotion is nothing but the eye of the pure, unalloyed spiritual self of the jiva. The form of Krishna is visible to that eye in proportion to its purification by the practice of devotion. I want to get back to that point, but just going a couple sentences back in the purport that I just read, that it's saying, when Krishna manifested himself in Vraja, both the devotees and non-devotees saw him with this very eye, but only the devotees cherished him. So I don't know why it's such a hard point to grasp in the material world that um, we have to have proper knowledge to see things properly. And that's so true materially. Like who was maybe it was Kalsrup was talking about this point. I don't know. Anyway, like a pretty classic example that if you're looking into a microscope, unless you have a biology teacher telling you what you're looking at, you have no idea. You wouldn't even have an idea how to focus it properly. And let alone that, oh, this was the point that somebody in class was talking about, that maybe we can demand that, God needs to appear before me and then I'll believe. Like Pelzer was talking about how the scientists, maybe it was the comedian was telling this joke, but like that they'll say, whenever God writes in the sky, Doctor so and so, believe in me, then only then will um, that person believe. But the argument was no, they won't, because then somebody could just come along and say you might be completely insane or in some hysterical fit or something like that. But anyway, um, we can't even see somebody materially great. We won't even know who they are without proper knowledge behind it. So there's probably so many examples. I mean, probably even in my own life or like on book distribution, for example, like meeting so many famous people or people who were famous and you don't even know. Like, unless you have knowledge of who that person is, they would just pass you right by. So even if God walked into the room, do we really have the knowledge to actually know, um, yeah, who he is? I think I told this story, and it's just bringing to mind. I think I told this story in class one time that in Little Five Points in Atlanta, like the hip place that I was going on book distribution. Like I would go there, I would say the majority of the days of the week, and I just walked around the corner, and I walked into the middle of something, and I didn't know what was going on, but there was like a whole group of like very scantily clad girls and like high heels, and then like some guys, like cool looking guys, and then the police were there too, and kind of like some crowd control. And I was just like walking along, and then I looked over, and there was some people kind of like acting, and then I went over and I asked the police officer because we were friends. She was really cool, and I was like, "What is this going on?" And they're like, "Oh, you just walked through the middle of a T-Pain music video," and I was like, "Oh my God, he's still alive!" Like he's still even doing stuff, and anyway, I might be in that video. I tried to find it, but I don't know if they put it out yet. But yeah, you wouldn't know, like, unless I asked. I'm like, whoa, this guy looks like he's really let himself go. Like he was just yeah, anyway. I was like, I can't believe this is somebody famous. So we wouldn't know unless we have knowledge. That is the point. So if we can't even do that with somebody in the material world, then let alone with Krishna. It's just it's not even just proud to think that, it's actually insane. So, yeah, anyway, I'm just finish the last little bit of this purport from Brahma Samhita. So, he says, the eye of devotion is nothing but the eye of the pure unalloyed spiritual self of the jiva. The form of Krishna is visible to that eye, this is a key point, in proportion to its purification by the practice of devotion. When the devotion of the neophyte reaches the stage of bhava bhakti, the pure eye of that devotee is tinged with the salve of love by the grace of Krishna, which enables him to see Krishna face to face. The phrase in their hearts means Krishna is visible in proportion as their hearts are purified by the practice of devotion. The sum and substance of this shloka is that the form of Krishna, who is Shamasundara, Natavara, best dancer, Mulidhara, holder of the flute, and Tribhanga, triple bending, is not a mental concoction, but is transcendental, and is visible with the eye of the soul of the devotee under trance, which is pretty almost word for word what Prabhupada is saying in today's purport. So, yeah, this is a very important point that we have to, through the practice of devotion, we have to uncover our spiritual eyes, or however you want to think of it, uncover the spiritual eyes, develop the spiritual eyes, put the ointment of the salve of love on the eyes to make them spiritual or re-spiritualize them, however you like to think about it. But yeah, I just like this point. The form of Krishna is visible to the eye in proportion to its purification, which just if you stop there and be like, oh man, I'm not very pure. But it's by the practice of devotion that we come to that point. So yeah, how can we fall in love with somebody, with Krishna, or well, anybody, without knowing something about them? And I was starting to think about like material examples that, yeah, you can't love somebody until you know things about them or like yeah, know them a bit deeper. But I was thinking, actually, we really do become infatuated by things in the material world and people just based on a service level. So like so many people that maybe we revere in society, like so many US presidents. Y and I were talking about that the other day because we were in Philadelphia and they have all the statues, and we were trying to figure out who is this big statue like in front of the or near where the Rath Yatra is. Is it Christopher Columbus? Is it Thomas Jefferson? And then these Germans came and they're like, it's definitely Benjamin Franklin. And he was like on a horse and like very regal. I'm like, it's definitely not. But they where was I going with that? Oh, so on the surface, right? Like wow, founding fathers, they probably did so much. But then come to find out about their character. And actually, it's like, okay, well, Thomas Jefferson was like, sleeping with his slaves, thinking he's being merciful, and like, I mean, so many other things. And then you actually find out it's like, oh, it's like biting into a rotten apple. Like looks good on the outside and then on the inside. So it's kind of the reverse in the material world is like the more you find out about um, somebody that's absorbed in material consciousness, then actually the worse it gets. Same thing with like people are infatuated by like oh, Brad Pitt or whoever, Angelina Jolie or somebody. And then that's just based on a service level because you saw them on the front of Cosmopolitan. And then maybe you come to find out more about them and you're like, oh, actually not that attractive. So yeah, we with Krishna though, on the flip side, is that the more we hear about Krishna, the more we hear about his pastimes, the more we can actually fall in love with him. So, hearing and chanting is the primary form of devotional service that uh, is in the practice of devotion that this purport is referring to in the Brahma Samhita. So, yeah, we can't be in love with someone and envy them at the same time. We could be obsessed with someone and envy them, but like Kamsa is obsessed with Krishna, but he's envying him so much. So if we can't love someone and be envious of them at the same time, then we have to go from one side of the spectrum to the other. So we have to go from the envious side, like envy of Krishna over here, and start to, through the process of hearing and chanting, devotional service, devotee association, taking prasadam, all the things, then slowly slide ourselves over to the love of Krishna side because the two are not compatible. And like I was saying, a really very great way to do this to cleanse our hearts of this envy of Krishna is to hear about his pastimes and how we cannot even come close to matching how Krishna enjoys, well, how he controls. Some people can accept that about God, like, oh, he's making the world go round like that. Even that's becoming rare nowadays. But um, to say that God enjoys, whew, that's like a hard point to grasp. Even at Gita Nagari, um, what year was that? Maybe like 2019, I think when Devi Maharaj had a retreat here, and what was that? And anyway, he was talking about my dad was there, yeah, actually, and he was asking, do you know why Krishna has a flute? Why Krishna plays the flute? And he knew my dad was a musician, so he's like turned to him or something. And then David Maharaj answered, he's like, it's because Krishna's all play and no work. And I remember at that time, I'm like, but I still cannot accept that, you know, God is a little blue boy playing a flute. But anyway, nonetheless, we go on hearing about Krishna's pastimes, and even Krishna book was quite hard for me to digest at first. I mean, I haven't fully digested it, but I remember in the ashram in Philadelphia, like Gita Govinda and some of the other girls at night, they'd be so excited, like, oh my God, like before we go to sleep, can we all like, do you want to read some Krishna book? And our Gita Govinda especially, she's so like frenzied over it, so excited. And then we would sit down to read. She's like, do you want to start reading Krishna book together? So I'm like, okay. And we started reading and she was so into it. And I was just like, I don't know. I guess maybe I was thinking like this is very mythological. Like just give me like the philosophical points, Bhagavad Gita. That's what I can cope with right now. But to just hear nonstop Krishna book, like Krishna's enjoyment in this way and that way and the other, I'm like, no, no, has to be mythology. So anyway, that's envy. Good example. Uh, so I wanted to actually just to help to cleanse at least my heart of envy of Krishna and really see how embarrassingly we try to imitate Krishna in this material world. I wanted to go through the pastime of Krishna's entering Mathura and yeah, fighting with the different demons, the elephant and Kuvalayapid and the wrestlers and um, it's the wait, is it the washerman? Yeah, that he slices his head off. So yeah, it's just such a nice pastime because Krishna is like the transcendental juvenile delinquent. He's just going in and uh, you know, taking over the town essentially. Like how young kids, I never knew girls that did this, but guys, they put like firecrackers in people's mailboxes or like go and like drive a truck by and like baseball bat and like hit the mailboxes off the posts or stuff like that. But Krishna actually does all of this kind of uh, activity, gets these flavors of being a juvenile delinquent, so to speak, in the best way that we can't even compete with. So the whole pastime starts. I mean, obviously, like before this, Akrura sees Mahavishnu, right? And Anandashesh in the water. What's that chapter called? Can't remember. But and then he goes back. So Akrura goes back to the chariot, and then he sees Krishna and Balaram there, and he's like, "Wait, weren't you just?" And he's kind of bewildered. And it's so funny how Krishna asks him. He's like, "Akrura, have you seen something wonderful?" And he knows full well what he's doing. That he's like, yeah, kind of messing with Akrura. But anyway, then Akura offers like a beautiful prayer, and he's just like stunned and just saying, Krishna, there's not anything more wonderful than your transcendental form. When I have seen your transcendental form, what is there left to see? And then Akura is like, okay, I can understand this. So then he gets on and starts driving the chariot. And then they reach Mathura. And so Krishna enters Mathura, or at least out outside of Mathura, and all the ladies just completely stop what they're doing, and they're like, in the middle of taking their bath, or in the middle of feeding their kids, uh, in the middle of decorating their face, like that, and they just like immediately just drop it and leave. I was just like reading this, I'm like, oh my God, not only what man would like not uh yeah, want that, or at least it's glamorized, like that kind of, uh, oh my God, there he is. Everybody like goes running, like Elvis or something. Um, that's like glamorized. But I mean, uh, yeah, men they do the same to women. So either way, you look at it. but yeah, they all stop what they're doing, and Krishna, Krishna, like all the ladies come out, they're coming on the rooftops, everything, and Krishna just walks by so slowly, smiling, he's walking by very slowly and majestically, like an elephant, and yeah, it's explained he passes through like an elephant, and it's really nice if you read through these chapters from Krishna entering Mathura to the end of the chapter of the killing of Kamsa. There's this like back and forth almost between the residents of Mathura and those of Vrindavan, where the residents of Mathura are saying, "Oh my gosh, how lucky are the residents of Vrindavan to be able to see Krishna every single day. Like we're just seeing him now and he's just, oh my gosh, he's so attractive. We can't get over it." So then they're glorifying the residents of Vrindavan and being like transcendentally envious, jealous of them. And then later on, we hear that the residents of Vrindavan are transcendently envious of the residents of Mathura because, Krishna's now there and spending more time there. And then it flips the other side where the residents of Mathura, I think it's during the wrestling match, are again glorifying the residents of Vrindavan that Krishna spends his pastimes there. So it's like, it's so nice that, every devotee thinks that the others are more fortunate than themselves and always lifting others up instead of, trying to tear them down. Um, so yeah, anyway, next up, Krishna comes to the washerman, who I think this is outside of the precincts of Mathura now. And it's funny this like once I really started getting into this, there's so many cool details about this whole series of pastimes. So anyway, the washerman's pretty envious. Krishna asks him for some cloth, and the washerman is just like, "No, you can't have that. Everything belongs to the king." And he goes on this whole rant about how everything belongs to King Kamsa. But then at the end of his rant, he's like, basically, he says that you can't ask for things belonging to the king because you're going to be arrested and punished. And I have personal experience of this because, this happened to me too. And it's really funny because it's like he's projecting basically onto Krishna and Balaram that he's actually just upset because Kamsa has, laid down the law with him and put him in his place. So he's like, the washerman's actually like resentful toward Kamsa, but he's projecting that onto Krishna and Balaram. Like, don't you know you can't do this? It's happened to me. And yeah, you can't, everything belongs to Kamsa. It's a little bit brainwashed. Anyway, then Krishna pretty quickly finishes him off, that he strikes his head with the upper portion of his hand, which I don't know if that's like, is that the back of the hand? Anyway, he pops his head off, and yeah, it's pretty cool. It's like a kung fu, but like the best kung fu movie ever seen. So then Washerman's dead. Krishna and Balaram pick up the clothes and they put on whatever they want. They take with them whatever they want. And then they distribute or ask the cowherd boys, okay, which ones do you want as well? Like a little free shopping spree. And then they just leave the rest there in a pile. Like really, they don't care. It's like the epitome of just being completely carefree. We're going to take what we want. We're going to show up to the wrestling arena when we want. We're going to, well, anyway, as the pastime goes on, we see more examples of them just doing whatever they want. So immediately this is like, oh, like envy can come to the heart. Why do they get to do whatever they want? I want to be able to go into a store and just take what I want and just throw the rest on the ground. Anyway, then they come next to the tailor, who is a devotee of Krishna or offers to Krishna and Balaram, to tailor the clothes for them. And um, and then Krishna benedicts the tailor that in this life he will enjoy material opulence, and then in the next life he gets Sarupya Mukti. So getting the form like Krishna. And Prabhupada says in the explanation of this, by this incident, Krishna proved that those who are Krishna conscious devotees will not be lacking material enjoyment of sense gratification. They will have sufficient opportunity for such things and then enter Vaikuntha or Goloka Vrindavan, Krishna Loka, at the end of life. So I thought that was a good point too, and how Prabhupada specifically uses the word sufficient. So he doesn't say, they will have um, ample or lavish opportunity for sense gratification, but sufficient. So essentially, our needs will be taken care of. The more we surrender to Krishna, the more he provides for our needs, actually. We just sometimes have in our mind that we need a certain level of enjoyment or facility, but Krishna actually knows what level of enjoyment and facility we need. So then Krishna moves on to the florist, and yeah, the florist is so humble. Like, if you would order me to do something, speaking to Krishna, it would be a great favor to me. And yeah, so the florist offers them flowers and everything, and then it's really nice because in this part, Prabhupada's explaining how the florist was like wanting to advance himself or get some facility so that then he could in turn benefit all living entities. And then Prabhupada makes the point in this part of the pastime that a devotee isn't satisfied with his own advancement. He must be willing to work for the welfare of others. So I like how Prabhupada put that yeah, it's a non-negotiable. He must be willing to work for the welfare of others. And there's so many ways that we can do that. I mean, just doing service on this farm is even sweeping the floor of the temple, like any of it is working for the welfare of others. Or not even just doing service on the service on the farm, but even an example of something like yeah, I don't know, sweeping the floor of the temple, and you're like, how am I working for the welfare of others? It is benefiting, it's creating a nice facility. People are very attracted to clean facilities, whether they know it or not, so regardless of how they live. Um, I'm trying to think recently, when I was in New Zealand, David Meets Maharaj was, what did he say about being clean? Like, oh, he said that the place, like Bhaktiland, should be revolutionary clean. He kept saying that revolutionary clean, revolutionary clean. And so we had to get really revolutionary clean. I mean, I'm still not revolutionarily clean, but yeah, and I heard him say before too that and Mangalarti used to say this to me, like something along the lines of management, or like a huge chunk of management is just keeping things clean. Like that's like 75% is keeping things clean. And I'm like, what? That is not what I think of whenever I think of management. So we can see such a nice example. Like I'm always amazed at the creamery, how nice. I mean, I guess I wasn't really paying much attention to cleanliness before when I used to come, but when whoever was in charge of Gari and then Steel, or yeah, whoever was in charge of what, it's always been very clean and very nice. And I'm always like, wow, this is management whenever I walk in there. So yeah, then Krishna goes on and he uh meets Kubja, who she's not introduced as Kubja yet, but the hunchback. And, he's like joking to, make the cowherd boys laugh, and he's saying, oh, tall young woman, who are you? You should offer me the sandalwood that you have in your hands, that she's carrying to King Kamsa. And then she immediately becomes infatuated with him and is like, oh yeah, I see it's better to serve you. So this is again Krishna enjoying way better than we ever could. Like imagine having that interaction. Somebody's going to I don't even know if that, well, yeah, I guess it would be like an example, somebody's like carrying a plate of uh prasad or something, and they're going to deliver it, or like the maha, whatever that's called, the transfer tray, and you're like, let's say you're walking on your way to go to the welcome center, and then somebody just walks along, they're like, oh, you should get that to me. And you're just like, yeah, I definitely should. It's just like this, um, her mind just becomes immediately infatuated and possessed with Krishna's beauty. So then, yeah, everybody knows the pastime. Like there's some back and forth, and then she's like, at one point, she's like tugging at the back, like at the cloth behind him, uh, flirtatiously, and essentially then asking him like to satisfy her desires, to enjoy with him. And yeah, anyway, I was just thinking, I'm like, imagine it, and they're in public, they're in the middle of the street. So I'm like, man, imagine if somebody like I don't know if that happened like in front of the welcome center, like that would just be so embarrassing. Like we just can't compete with Krishna. Like that would be so weird. But yeah, anyway, so she's in the middle of the street, like inviting Krishna. Okay, come to my place. And then Krishna, he's conscious of the cowherd boys and Balaram are there. And he's very detached. So this is one of the examples of Krishna's renunciation. Um, and it's kind of like we can see the perverted reflection of this in the material world, like uh, when I mean I'm making a lot of generalizations today, so bear with me. But whenever there's like I remember in middle school, like a guy would be maybe have a girlfriend, and then he'd say all kinds of things, and it was just like, "Oh, I love you so much. I'm gonna miss you. You're going to math class now, and like we can't be apart or whatever." But then if he was with like his group of guy friends, and then the girl is there, like he acts super detached, like, "Oh yeah, there she is. Yeah, it's fine. It's whatever. I guess we're together." But yeah, Krishna's like the actual in reality like this detachment of like, oh, I mean he is actually detached. He doesn't have to go outside of himself to satisfy himself, and this is all his energy anyway. But yeah, so Krishna's not lusty, but he's saying things to Kubja, like he says, a girl like you is the only means of solace for us who are away from home and unmarried. A suitable girl like you can give us relief from all mental agitation. So of course this is not, Krishna's already self-satisfied. He's Atmarama, but he's just saying these things for the sake of the pastime. So it's really nice. Yeah, and then he continues on. Again, a bunch of ladies stop what they're doing, come out, and a bunch of them like almost faint, it's described, and others like have to support them. And then Krishna just it continues on, and then he inquires about the location of the sacrificial arena, like he doesn't know, like he's not, omniscient. Um, and it's just so interesting, all part of the pastime. So then the bow is in the center of the arena, and then he just waltzes right in, and the bow is there, and there's guards all around the bow, and he's warned, don't go any nearer. There's a bunch of guards, and he just completely ignores them and just walks right up, grabs the bow, strings it, snaps it in half, and then he left, and then he's like, I think I want to go on a tour of the city now. So anyway, I have to stop there. There's so much more. Like we didn't even get to the killing of Kamsa. But I just really like this pastime. I can feel my heart being like cleansed as I read it and just think about like meditate on Krishna's enjoyment. And I would encourage everybody to go back through and read these chapters because there's so many little points that at least I myself have missed before. And I'm like, wow, we are such tryhards. We are really trying to be Krishna, and we just can never compete. Anyway, does anybody have any thoughts or questions? Prabhu, do you have anything? Okay. Anybody online? Sorry, there's only 4 minutes left.
Hey, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I really appreciate the narration of Krishna Lila. That was a lot of fun, very relishable. I really enjoyed the entire class, and I was thinking about the salve of love that I think sometimes it's not clearly understood what that means exactly, but my own realization is that it means that to be able to understand Krishna as he is, you have to understand him in relationship to yourself, and that relationship is one of love. So I was trying to think of an example of something like this, and was having a hard time coming up with a good example. But let's say you came upon a bicycle and you had no idea what a bicycle was. If you didn't know what a bicycle was and just examining it, you wouldn't be able to understand. But if someone showed you how to sit on the bicycle and actually ride it, when you see it functioning in relationship to yourself, then you have a more complete understanding. So the salve of love is all about our relationship with Krishna and how we interact with one another. That in the absence of the practical interaction of a loving relationship, there can't be a complete understanding. Because that's what it's all about. We are servants of Krishna. Krishna is the beneficiary of all of our activities, and to understand him and to understand ourselves, we have to understand ourselves in relationship to Krishna in the acting in our constitutional position as servants of Krishna. So it's all about service. It's all about loving service. Anyway, that was my thought. Thanks again for a very nice class. Really enjoyed hearing that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. I thought that was a great example because I didn't really get whatever you said, I think we just, or yeah, just say salve of love, but might not know. And I'm like, yeah, I really don't know what it means. I mean, I can speculate, but like it's such a specific example, you know? So the example though that you gave of the bicycle, that was very helpful and I understand it that way. Um, yeah, thank you for your comments and thank you for everybody's encouragement, Agari, Yashkir, and Leela. So anybody have anything else? 30 seconds? Okay. Antar Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Do you mind just setting in the bookshelf actually? Thank you.